Hey people, British Reggie here. Have you ever had the masculine urge to leave your job to vanquish a spellcasting succubus? Or perhaps you've had an innate inner yearning to establish insect supremacy. Then there's a high likelihood you're in some questionable Discord servers. And you'd probably enjoy Barony, the first person roguelike dungeon crawler you can play with your friends. Or if you'll always be alone like me, then there's also single player. You can do great things like get electrocuted by a gnome, collect lots of gold, solve complex puzzles, find epic loot, almost get eaten by that loot, and eat a slightly aged cream pie. But today, we have one goal: find Baphomet, ruler of hell, and kill him. To reach him, we'll have to survive 24 floors of traps, monsters, starvation, third-degree burns, and raging minotaurs capable of turning fully grown men into fine paste. Luckily, Cornelius Chuggington is no man.
That's why he's the GOAT!
Can I survive long enough to reach hell and kill Baphomet? Or will Barony reduce me to a cautionary stain on the floor? Time to find out. Time to big in. The exorcism. Before we continue, I have to tell you something. When I'm not fighting a Frenchman or exorcising Baphomet from existence, I prefer to spend my time waging intergalactic war, purging heretics for the Imperium of Man. That's right, this video is sponsored by Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. Tacticus is an exciting turn-based tactical strategy game set in the eternal conflict of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. It features tactical, fast-paced battlefield gameplay in the palm of your hand, with the chance to assemble and lead more than 120 Warhammer 40,000 champions. And after 4 years, Tacticus is celebrating its biggest milestone yet with a massive 2-week anniversary event featuring exclusive content, rewards, and daily missions. But more importantly, Tacticus is celebrating the anniversary by launching the Epic Crusade mode. There will be 2 opposing sides battling for galactic victory. The Imperials embark on a crusade, while Chaos and all present Xeno factions try to stop them. Every guild picks a side, and every player picks a faction within their guild side. During the Crusade season, all guilds and players battle for control of the planets in the galaxy map, and a series of leaderboards give special rewards, including for the best guilds and best players globally, and best faction within each planet conquest. The galaxy map consists of roughly 96 planets. The side controlling the most planets at the end wins. The anniversary also introduces 3 new champions: Remus, Darnath Lysander, and my personal favorite, the Sekitar robot, which uses its heavy warp flamer ability to melt everything in its path. To face the anniversary events, you'll need a lot of resources, so make sure to use my code on screen to get a boost. And use a link in my description or the QR code on screen to download Tacticus for free now. To activate a promo code, simply tap Home, then Settings, then Redeem Promo Code. Thanks again to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring today's video. Now, back to hell. The first step is choosing our race and class. There's many options here. Maybe you'd want to be a mechanist automaton, or perhaps you'd prefer an undead failed comedian.
This is gonna sound terrible, maybe a little racist.
Personally, I went with the Goatman. Much like a theme park mascot, the Goatman's main attribute is being a highly functioning alcoholic. By chugging a bottle of VB, we become the ideal version of ourselves, gaining extra strength, charisma, and constitution. The trade-off is that we move a little slower, slur our words, and gain the driving skills of Max Verstappen. Drinking alcohol isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. He is living proof that it's functionally impossible to become hungover if you never stop drinking. But when the sorry day comes where we can't get our hooves around a bottle, then we'll be hungover indefinitely. This causes a 3-point decrease to our dexterity, intense hiccups, and a mildly infuriating screen sway from side to side. Being hungover is the problem, and drinking beer is the solution. Luckily for us, the brewer class can help with that. The brewer to the Goatman is what a rolled up 50 is to a stockbroker. Functionally, the brewer is a talented alchemist who can brew a variety of potions. Some heal us, others burn spiders alive. The brewer starts with the ideal combination of having low survivability and high complexity, making it the perfect class to choose if you're an idiot. I began my descent in the mines, and was immediately greeted by a foreboding voice who apparently cannot differentiate between a human and a goat. This dark and claustrophobic dungeon is made up of narrow tunnels, cramped rooms, giant boulders that crush you, and dangerous monsters like skeletons, ghouls, and, worst of all, gangs of rats carrying the hantavirus. All I have to my name are a few potions, some slightly stale bread, an iron axe, and the best piece of gear in the game: a backpack. This allows us to carry more stuff, like potions or kinks. Items can be found scattered around the dungeon, or acquired by smashing every ceramic in sight, like we're at a Greek wedding. The leveling system in Barony is very similar to Skyrim's. We increase our overall level by training our individual skills. Cornelius Chuggington is a talented alchemist, and a natural-born leader, whilst also being intellectually disabled. The higher the level, the more effective our potions are. To brew potions, we have to use our alembic, where you combine a base potion with a secondary potion. Warning, results may vary. Luckily for us, we don't have to guess too much, because the compendium includes a recipe chart, which we can use as a brewing cheat sheet. I combined a potion of speed with blindness, which gave us sickness. I then combined acid with that sickness potion, giving me a Molotov cocktail. You can level alchemy in different ways, like sculling 5 liters of toxic solutions, chucking them at anything that moves, and carefully concocting new brews. Each time we brew a potion inside the alembic, it has a 1 in 40 chance to degrade. If acid is one of the ingredients, that chance increases to 1 in 10. And since we start with just a single alembic, losing it would make us about as useful as Anne Frank's drum set. However, once we reach max level, our alembics will never degrade. Humans are hostile towards the Goatman, meaning they'll try to kill us on sight, but if you simply shout them a bit, they immediately become your friend for life, and will fight for you to the death. This is a unique mechanic for the Goatman, although it also works on belligerent blokes at the pub about 60% of the time. I can use him as I see fit, like committing a jailbreak and forcing him to kill his fellow man. With my new follower, I killed a ghoul by splitting his skull, then moved on to firebombing 2 skeletons. All this axe swinging had worked up quite an appetite. In fact, I was actually starving, and if I didn't eat soon, then I'll slowly fade out of existence and die. To satiate my hunger, I'll need to find and eat various foods, such as this moldy cheese lying on the floor. The worse condition the food is in, the higher the chance we'll puke, which lowers my hunger level even more. After exploring most of the map, we exited the first floor, making it to level 3. Seeing this symbol in the mines is equivalent to a pressure warning on board the Titan, because after a short while, a giant, raging minotaur will spawn onto the map, bulldozing his way through the dungeon until he reaches me. If I stay here, it's not a matter of if I die, it's a matter of whether there's enough left to identify the body. So I equipped this bronze shield I found earlier and began frantically rushing around the map, looking for the exit. Blocking is going to be one of the key skills for this run. Whenever I'm not bathing my enemies in liquid nitrogen, I'll most likely be fighting them up close and personal with an axe and shield. So I tested my new shield on a small colony of rats, who quickly overwhelmed me and forced me to incinerate them all with a petrol bomb. Unfortunately, during the chaos, they killed my one and only unpaid intern. God fucking damn it. In Barony, drinking from random underground plumbing can lead to various results. Sometimes you get water with cholera. Other times, you spawn a magical ball of slime who tries to kill you. Water to us is as sacred as sunscreen to a ginger, because it gives us a chance to duplicate potions. Once we create powerful potions, we can effectively carry them throughout the entire run, provided I don't dump a stack into a troll. Eventually, I found the floor exit. However, I'm not taking this one. That's because I wanted to go to a secret level. So, after pulling these 2 levers to unlock the gate, I sprinted past a troll and made it to the secret exit with 8 milliseconds to spare. Gentlemen, welcome to the first layer of hell, otherwise known as the Gnomish Mines. This secret level is a maze-like, PTSD-inducing nightmare, crawling with trolls and scores of homicidal gnomes. They might look small and harmless, but that little gremlin face will be the last thing you see before getting electrocuted. So, why come to such a place? Greed, really. That's about it. The Gnomish Mines are high risk, high reward. If you survive, you can leave with powerful staves, an artifact helmet, and, most importantly, a shit ton of gold buried deep within these walls. Upon entering, I was immediately attacked by a goth chick I swear I can save, and some 3-foot lunatic. Fountains are incredibly important for the brewer, but even more so as a goat man. This is because they have a chance to drop 1 to 3 extra potions every time we use one. With these extra ingredients, I began mass producing bottles of beer, and once I was blackout drunk, I stumbled out into the mines. I crept around and began my crusade to murder every gnome I could find, clenching my arsehole around every corner. The standard gnomes weren't much of a problem, and they dropped pickaxes, which we could use to mine the walls for gold. The gnomes with the lightning staves, however, were significantly more dangerous. One wrong move, and Cornelius would be transformed into slow-cooked goat biryani. To avoid this, I used a variety of combat techniques, such as dousing them in gasoline, kiting them around a block, and giving them a taste of their own medicine. In the Gnomish Mines, death is waiting for you around every turn, and the narrow hallways make crowd control a little difficult. Eventually, I found my way to this maze room, containing a piece of artifact gear, sealed behind a series of magical traps. This was clearly designed to test the player's patience and intelligence. Unfortunately for Cornelius, it was all quiet on the frontal lobe. So, I approached the puzzle the same way mankind solves all of its problems, by destroying the environment until it gave me what I wanted. My reward was the Sphinx's Cask, an unbreakable artifact helmet that provides 3 armor and 8 intelligence. After putting it on, Cornelius no longer had severe brain damage. Now, he was just a podcaster. With this, I unlocked a new self-confidence and began speedrunning the remainder of the floor, killing another 6 gnomes, 2 trolls, looting multiple chests, and smashing every wall I could find. After leaving about a quarter of the map undiscovered because I'm stupid, which would have included a shopkeeper that most likely sold beer, We escaped the gnomish mines, becoming a much richer goat in the process. After reaching the 3rd floor, I equipped a ring of warning, which marked all nearby enemies on the map as purple dots. I could see spiders hiding in the dark and observe enemies in different rooms. Now, nothing could get the jump on us. Oh shit. After surviving a near-death experience with a piece of furniture, I decided it was time to spend some of my inheritance. The only issue is that shopkeepers are still violently racist towards goats, and apparently they don't drink either. So, before approaching, I drank a potion of polymorph, and like an alcoholic uncle putting on a tie, I temporarily transformed into something more socially acceptable. Here, I sold a bunch of useless junk, and bought a new bronze axe, better gloves, a steel shield, and a loaf of bread without mold. Some real upmarket shit. With our new gear equipped, Cornelius started hitting harder and blocking more effectively. After carving through several more skeletons, I made my way to the next secret level, Mine Town. A safe haven for all those deemed racially acceptable. To avoid getting blown apart by the local shopkeeper, I drank another potion of polymorph, which also allowed me to easily recruit humans at the click of a button. This is called goat fishing. So, after gathering 3 loyal followers, I began rigorously interviewing for the final position. Do you drink?
Yes.
Are you willing to die?
Yes.
What happened to the other guy? Don't worry about it. You're hired. Here, I purchased all the potions and food I could find, and even picked up a steel visor to hide my hideous goat face. Although I'd gotten stronger after leaving Minetown, most of my followers were still about as fragile as an alpha male's ego. One died from a spider bite, one got crushed to death, and another one got stabbed by a skeleton. At least there was another traitor here. However, I was out of polymorphs, so I resorted to plan B, aggravated burglary. Normally, attacking a shopkeeper ends in certain death. However, Callie here actually had armor with magic reflection, turning the shopkeeper's own spells against him, like a response to CoffeeZilla. The harder he fought, the quicker he destroyed himself. Once shopkeepers die, they drop half their available inventory. He didn't have any potions, but he did have a bunch of useful shit, including a new spell to summon a fire sprite. So, at least I don't have to carry a torch anymore. The rest of these floors were relatively straightforward. I found a bunch of gold, thrifted a brand new set of iron armor, drank from the local sewers, hacked apart various skeletons and rats, killed a troll, and, most importantly, found a tin can. The weak jaws of lesser races require a can opener to consume the contents inside, but not us. The goat man simply places the metal tin into their mouth and swallows it whole. We made it to the safe area. After sorting through my inventory, identifying extra items, and healing up, it was time to descend further. Welcome to the swamp. If you thought the mines were bad, then gentlemen, I've got news for you. Because I'd rather be castrated with paper cuts than spend another minute in this god-forsaken swamp. These disease-ridden marshlands are a quagmire of overgrown vegetation and stagnant pools of water designed to bog you down. When you aren't getting waterboarded by a magical slime ball, you're probably getting stabbed by a goblin or some dead guy. Compared to the mines, the swamp is much more open and almost enjoyable. Right up until you get poisoned by an arrow trap, or find yourself neck deep in moldy water after speedrunning both alchemy and liver failure by ingesting a cocktail of liquids that made me go blind, float, and just fucking explode. I began meticulously exploring the map in search of loot, hacking apart goblins and balls of snot along the way. One very viable option for the brewer is to play more of a support type role by smashing a glass bottle over your follower's head and roofing people from a distance. Right before we left, this sick bastard killed my only follower, but his worst crime of all came moments later when he rejected a beer I offered him. Apparently, he only drank non-alcoholic. For that sin alone, he had to die. The following 2 floors were both Minotaur levels. After losing Kali, I didn't really feel like getting pulverized by 10 tons worth of methane gas. So, after touching a couple butt plugs, eating a slightly aged cream pie, my favorite, vomiting, and nearly getting flattened by 4 boulders, I took a portal into the secret level, the Haunted Castle. The Haunted Castle is filled with hidden rooms, puzzles, valuable loot, and a rare pair of black Air Force Ones. Scattered throughout the castle are various secret pathways, leading to even more loot. Some required me to take Ozempic and sprint into a room before the gate shut. Others hid secret switches buried within bookshelves, which somehow caused entire waterfalls to fade out of existence and reveal 2 chests for loot. Not this time, you slimy bastard. The best items I found were 3 bottles and a spellbook of levitation, and a cloak of magic reflection, a vital piece of gear for the endgame. But the real reason we came here was waiting inside the main castle, the Oracle Treads, a rare pair of artifact boots that gave us 3 armor and permanent lesser warning, which also would free up a ring slot. The only downside was that they weighed about the same as 204 cans of White Monster. Yes. Monster is my new unit of measurement. You might have noticed, throughout this entire floor, we hadn't run into a single enemy, and that is the trap of the haunted castle, because the moment I took these boots off the podium, powerful ghouls started spawning across the map. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. These weren't just your standard ghouls either. These were enslaved ghouls, who hit harder, drain your life force, make you bleed, and move extremely fast, meaning we can't kite them. To deal with these undead bastards, I used the water I found to duplicate 3 bottles of lager and fashioned 2 homemade bombs. Then I scaled a potion of levitation, chased it with a long neck, and headed directly into the fray. I might be outgunned and outnumbered, but I have one thing these festering pricks didn't. Mediocre swimming ability. You see, if you put a tile of water in between you and the enslaved ghouls, then they won't be able to reach you. So I levitated across to this spot right here, and what was supposed to be my fast and brutal demise turned into 30 straight minutes of shooting them from afar, running away whilst simultaneously shitting down my leg, and killing them with axes, bows, lightning staffs, and eventually my bare hooves. After killing exactly 31 of them, yes, I counted, we reached level 20 and left the haunted castle. I moved on to kill 8 fucking slime balls, 3 spiders, and a goblin. I also found a ring of conflict, which we could use to induce a severe case of schizophrenia to all nearby NPCs, resulting in everyone trying to murder each other. And with that, we'd beaten the swamp. We were now stronger, better equipped, and even more wasted than usual. Welcome to the Sand Labyrinth, a convoluted, never-ending maze made of sand. And it was fully equipped with ancient tomfoolery to crush you, impale you, or incinerate you. But perhaps the most dangerous threat of all was starvation. You see this sarcophagus? Well, if you didn't find enough food in the previous levels, then that'll be you in about 20 minutes.
Hello!
Luckily, I found a ring of slow digestion, which drastically reduces our hunger rate. I could also chug bottles of beer to replenish a small amount of hunger. With these combined, I had a lot more time to explore the map in search of actual food. The Sand Labyrinth was also home to various new and dangerous enemies, like scorpions who can paralyze you, tough insectoids spraying acid to melt your face, and these little fuckers, which are my main food source. But without a doubt, the enemies that annoyed me most were the lava slimes, who had a special magical attack called a flamethrower. This was not ideal, as the Goatmen were particularly weak to magic damage, and slimes actually scaled with the dungeon level, making them fucking infuriating. By this point, my armor class had reached 33. After using this complex mathematical formula, we can deduce that my armor was absorbing about 3/4 of most physical attacks, and with our shield raised, weaker attacks were blocked entirely. This meant that we were a lot tankier and could meet most threats, like trolls and goblins, head on. However, we still had to watch out for magical attacks, as they ignore armor class altogether. Side note, I did not realize that Goatmen could recruit goblins, incubi, and succubi with beer. That would have made this run a lot easier. So if you're attempting this, make sure you don't make the same mistake. Anyway, other than that, most of the Sand Labyrinth was actually pretty breezy. Besides Catherine. We don't talk about what happened to Catherine. I did take a detour by mining through this wall to teleport to the secret level, Sokoban, where I equipped this ring, giving me the ability to push each boulder into the pits. Breaking any of these boulders will piss the gods off, so try not to do that. After pushing every single boulder, I solved the puzzle and was rewarded with Genie's braces, a pair of artifact gauntlets that crucially provided magical resistance, and a fuck ton of gold. It was around this point that I hit a crossroads, a decision that every man must eventually make in his life. Do I finally face the Minotaur, or do I run again like the good little soy boy I am? I had the ability to beat the Minotaur, but like an older brother who's maintained mental dominance well into adulthood, this giant bastard still had me psychologically scarred. Only this time, the Minotaur literally refused to let me leave by standing on top of the exit, so I was left with no choice. I'm not gonna lie, I was shitting myself, but after progressing through 13 floors, I was much stronger now, and surprisingly, my defenses were actually holding up. All that was left was to kill this bastard. With the Minotaur slain, I'd transformed my metaphorical dragon into Cold Hard Prophet, after exterminating a dozen more insects, picking up an amulet of sex change, and brewing a few more concoctions. I left the Sand Labyrinth, a changed goat. We descended into the ruins, a biome so violently unpleasant that it made me consider painting my bedroom walls with a Smith & Wesson. The ruins has some of the largest open spaces in the game, which is bad news for me, because it's crawling with dangerous new ranged enemies and magic casters.
Catch fire
fireball.
Why?
This vampire and his 2 enslaved ghouls gave me a mandatory induction by almost killing me within seconds of leaving spawn. Perhaps the worst part of the ruins were these sneaky little bastards. Never in my life have I hated a group of people more than these gnomes. And I've seen people clap when a plane lands. On the surface, they might look small, stupid, puntable. But they roll deep, and if they see you on their block, it's on sight. They can easily overwhelm you with their numbers. Some shooting you with annoying knockback arrows. Others prefer to run up and stab you with a shiv. And just when you finally kill them all, you step into one of their traps and either snap your leg in half or land directly on a fucking claymore. Another staple of the ruins were the bugbears. When they weren't bashing my head in with a shield, they were shooting me in the face from across the map. And because they were so tanky, most fights with them devolved into deranged staring contests, which I lost every time because I don't fucking blink. My strategy to take on these brick shithouses was hitting them 100 times until they disappeared. Staying true to the ruins theme of annoying the ever-living shit out of me, they barely dropped anything useful as well. Most of the time, they only leave behind an arbalist, and that's just if they spawned with one. But I think the most dangerous new enemy was
The fire-casting demons.
these red pricks were tanky, aggressive, and threw fireballs that hit like a truck, turning almost every encounter into a near-death experience. While dealing with all this, I also had to watch out for annoyingly placed spikes on the floor and countless magic traps around every corner. So, yes, the ruins were pretty dangerous. But it wasn't all bad. As a brewer, this place was actually somewhat of a sanctuary. It was filled with fountains, meaning I could stock up on water and collect new potions to brew with. Eventually, we reached Master Alchemy, increasing our potion effects by 150%, raising duplication chance to 90%, and giving us a high chance to salvage empty bottles after drinking or brewing. Cornelius had officially become a licensed pharmacist. What you need, bro? I got you. I used our new concoctions to run faster, become translucent, give my enemies vertigo, and brewed another major damage dealer. This one was quite shocking. But to get through the ruins, I still had to do the unthinkable. Use my brain. So I put on the Ring of Conflict, let these little shit-eating bastards murder each other, then repurpose their traps against these bumbling idiots. I also picked up an Arbalist for long-range damage, and a Ring of Healing for passive health regeneration, and I wonder what this bell does. The ruins were the last major biome before Hell, so it was important to explore each floor properly and squeeze every last drop of XP out of these vulnerable NPCs. Yes, that includes you, Mr. Minotaur. I focused on blocking and cleaved apart everything I could. Eventually, I reached max level in the axe skill. This increased my damage by 10, and fully charged attacks now inflicted a slow effect for 3 seconds. Shortly after, I found a fragile crystal axe that dealt far more damage than my current weapon. Normally, this would break after a couple of swings. However, because we'd maxed out our axe skill, our weapons now had a 0% chance to degrade per strike, meaning this fragile, high damage dealing axe had effectively become indestructible. So after finishing floor 18, brewing more potent healing potions, and making it to level 31, Cornelius Chuggington's time in the ruins was up. I used a spellbook of levitation to float across to this secret portal in the middle of a pool of lava, then left. Mum, I finally made it. I'm at a soulless live streaming party, also known as the Underworld. With some of the most open spaces in the game, the Underworld mainly consists of bottomless pits, which I use my spellbook of levitation to traverse. Alternatively, you can randomly teleport between shrines placed across the map. We weren't here for anything specific, but just as Jeffrey Epstein could tell you,
and there happens to be a resemblance.
in order to get to Hell, you must first progress through the Underworld. It only consists of 2 floors, but these floors were packed with powerful imps that could blow me to smithereens, and shadows. Undead spirits that appear out of thin air and try to kill you with your own weapon. Given the fact that I had the strongest base axe in the game, Parachute, I wish you were here. They were incredibly annoying, and the first one I ran into destroyed my fucking backpack. Well, shit. Lugging around all my pharmaceuticals just got a whole lot harder. So I took my frustration out on the entire Underworld. After exterminating life in the Underworld, I drank bottled lightning, recruited an automaton, found more cream pies, and reached level 33. It was time to leave the Underworld. At long last, we finally reached Hell. Only 3 floors stood between me and Baphomet himself. Hell was pretty much what you'd expect. Demons, dark rituals, sexual predators, and lava. You know what comes with lava? Hell was significantly harder than the previous levels, mainly because everything here doused me in flames. This amulet of burning resistance helped about as much as safety goggles at Hiroshima, and my automaton lasted all of 3 seconds. When my poor goat ass wasn't getting seared for the 100th time, I was getting discombobulated by an incubus, which reversed all of my controls, and made me fail a sobriety test I would have failed anyway. I was also trying to save my best potions for Baphomet, meaning I had to face all of my problems head on. Luckily, hell was apparently my natural habitat because it was filled with goatmen, and I wasted no time recruiting many to my cause. Finally, I found my family. Nothing could tear us apart, except for one very rare instance of a fire-casting imp floating over lava where none of us could reach it. My disappointment was immeasurable. Of course, there were more goatmen to recruit, but hell also introduced summoning room traps. These turn an empty room into a satanic escape room in an instant, and they almost always result in all of my followers dying, and me trying very hard not to join them. Thankfully, our local representative had also invested heavily into public fountains, which meant I could keep hydrated. The rest of hell consisted of finding a gimp mask, equipping a crystal breastplate, unlocking a secret door which led to more lava, and cleaving apart countless imps, shadows, slimes, incubi, succubi, and demons. After that, I went to brush up on my Shakespearean novels inside Hell's public library, and I pulled all of these levers to activate the portal to Baphomet. The fight with Baphomet would start the moment we entered the portal, so I prepared by repairing and blessing gear, brewing new potions including 2 bottles of liquid nitrogen and more powerful healing potions, equipped a crucial ring of levitation, dumped 15,000 pieces of gold to become a little lighter, equipped items with magic reflection, and drunk a speed potion. After descending down 23 nightmare-inducing floors and reaching level 40, it was finally time for us to face our ultimate test. It was time to face Baphomet. Upon entering his domain, we're immediately greeted by the 20-foot devil himself, bathing in a pool of lava. Baphomet has 3 attack cycles. First, he sprays the arena with a dense wall of fireballs. Then, he sends out 3 waves of his boulders, including lava boulders, which roll faster, ignore lava pools, and explode with the force of a small atomic bomb. Trust me, you do not want to get hit by these. And if you somehow survived all of that, then good. Now deal with the hordes of demons, imps, and shadows he just pulled out of his ass. Rather than actually moving around the arena, Baphomet rises from one lava pool to another, so if you didn't bring a long-range weapon or some form of levitation, then congratulations, you're fucked. My only follow-up lasted all of 13 seconds, which is fine. Nothing wrong with only lasting 13 seconds. I started fighting my way through Baphomet's minions, using my speed potions to reach each lava pool faster. From a distance, his fireballs were manageable. Up close, however, they hit me instantly. Luckily, I had multiple pieces of magic reflection, which initially negated the damage. The problem was that after taking so many hits, my gear started breaking, and my magic resistance went with it, which forced me to scull my healing potions to stay alive. My main tactic was to hit Baphomet with a fully charged axe strike, slowing him in order to get more damage in. However, because I was quaking in my boots, I forgot about the main weapon I'd spent the entire run creating, my potions, for like half the fucking fight. So after dodging another wave of boulders, I dumped 3 lightning storm potions directly onto Baphomet and killed him. Luckily, I hadn't used everything, because the moment Baphomet died, 2 giant minotaurs spawned in and immediately tried to tear me hoof from hoof. This was their mistake, because I wasn't locked in here with them. They were locked in here with me. So I gave one hypothermia by pouring liquid nitrogen all over him. Then I finished the other with a few Molotov cocktails for good measure. Apparently, killing the devil and 2 minotaurs still wasn't enough, because the game then sent dozens of demons, degenerates, and even my own kind to finish the job. So I killed every last creature in hell, made a quick pit stop to admire this cute little pony, then stepped through a portal to Hamlet and achieved our victory. With Baphomet destroyed, the denizens of Barony are finally free from the clutches of evil. Now, let's get pissed. Once again, thanks to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to use my code on screen to get a boost. And use a link in my description or the QR code on screen to download Tacticus for free now.